Item Number SCP-Y-056. Object Class Keter. Special Containment Procedures. Due to SCP-Y-056's unpredictable manifestations and incorporeal nature, containment primarily involves monitoring, prevention, and mitigation strategies. Foundation assets embedded in global law enforcement and forensic institutions must continuously monitor for anomalous occurrences and cases, matching SCP-Y-056's known patterns. Upon suspicion of SCP-Y-056 manifestation, Mobile Task Force Zeta-0 Squad 9, Hair Triggers, is required to establish immediate and discreet surveillance of the suspected target, closely observing all unusual phenomena. Direct interaction or interference with SCP-Y-056 should be strictly avoided, unless manifestation escalates into Phase 4, or public exposure becomes imminent. In such scenarios, a rapid response containment perimeter must be established promptly to minimize civilian exposure and casualties. Areas exhibiting substantial SCP-Y-056 hair manifestations demand immediate quarantine and cleanup operations conducted by hazmat-equipped Foundation personnel, utilizing specialized incineration methods to neutralize anomalous residue. Personnel involved in cleanup operations must undergo regular psychological evaluations and visual cognitohazardous resistance training. Targets confirmed to be under SCP-Y-056 surveillance must be secured and relocated to SCP Foundation Safe House Y-56, though only if manifestations have not advanced beyond Phase 1. If SCP-Y-056 manifestations have reached Phase 2, relocating the target is strictly prohibited, as it will immediately provoke SCP-Y-056 into its final and most lethal phase. Under such conditions, targets must remain at their residences, maintained under continuous surveillance and protection, ensuring ambient lighting levels remain above 800 lumens at all times. Residences must be equipped with specialized air filtration systems and sealed ventilation to prevent anomalous air infiltration. Surveillance systems and at least 2 Foundation personnel trained in psychological support and spiritual resistance techniques must be present continuously. In the event that containment measures fail and SCP-Y-056 abducts a victim, immediate lockdown procedures must be initiated for SCP-Y-015 containment, intensifying monitoring efforts for the anticipated emergence of the abducted individual's corpse. Upon recovery, all remains must undergo comprehensive analysis, followed by mandatory cremation to eliminate any potential anomalous residue. Personnel assigned to SCP-Y-056 related incidents must receive regular briefings focused on recognizing early manifestations, such as heightened environmental humidity, anomalous hair occurrences, and unexplained drain blockages, and must be trained extensively in non-hostile interaction techniques that have proven effective in delaying or potentially mitigating the progression of manifestations. It is paramount that any individuals interacting with SCP-Y-056 are to be male, as the anomaly appears to have excessive hostility towards anyone with XX chromosomes. Description: SCP-Y-056 is a deeply malevolent, spectral anomaly manifesting as a distinctly feminine figure, cloaked in a long, tattered black gown. Its form remains perpetually obscured beneath an extensive curtain of extraordinarily long, black hair. This hair exhibits profoundly anomalous properties, maintaining a constant dampness even in environments devoid of moisture. It moves in an eerie, gravity-defying manner, akin to being suspended underwater. The presence of SCP-Y-056 notably elevates local moisture levels, resulting in localized condensation on surfaces, which serves as an early indicator of impending manifestations. Documenting SCP-Y-056 visually or observing its facial features directly has proven futile, due to unexplained anomalous disruptions. Attempts to physically displace or move the obstructing hair invariably trigger severe distortion effects in video and photographic recordings, rendering all attempts at clear observation impossible. Eyewitness descriptions, though scarce and fragmented, consistently reference deeply unsettling, partial facial imagery, primarily vast, hollow cavities in place of eyes, described as infinitely dark voids capable of inducing overwhelming dread, paranoia, and lasting psychological trauma. The anomalous hair of SCP-Y-056 acts as its primary means of interaction and manifestation. It demonstrates an extraordinary capacity for independent control, able to manifest or demanifest the entity's physical presence instantaneously. The hair appears limitless in both its generation and distribution capabilities. Recorded incidents document entire multi-level residential buildings inundated completely with damp, black hair, excluding only the targeted individual's immediate environment, suggesting intentional manipulation and psychological torment tactics employed by SCP-Y-056. Manifestation patterns for SCP-Y-056 are notably unpredictable. However, approximately 70% of documented encounters demonstrate a chillingly ritualistic behavioral cycle. SCP-Y-056 selectively and exclusively targets male individuals, despite paradoxically resulting in female fatalities far exceeding male victims in number. Initial manifestations commence subtly, characterized by insidious observation practices. Targets frequently report brief, visual encounters, fleeting glimpses behind air vents, through keyholes, behind shower curtains during bathing, lurking within closets, or as dense hair masses gathering in darkened corners or beneath sleeping areas. Occasionally, partial apparitions such as isolated, hair-covered heads with hollow, observant eyes are noted. The initial surveillance phase can last from 2 days to roughly 4 weeks. Notably, this period significantly decreases when the targeted individual frequently entertains visitors, suggesting SCP-Y-056 reacts negatively to external social interactions. Upon entering the second phase, SCP-Y-056 dramatically escalates its manifestations. Hair abundantly emerges from household drains, envelops doorknobs, clings to windows, stretches across doorways, inducing intense sensations of confinement, separation, and paranoia. Thick clumps of hair gather increasingly in room corners, elevating psychological distress substantially. Starting from this phase, SCP-Y-056 occasionally produces faint, eerie humming, audible only through recording devices, captured randomly, even by passerbys using nearby electronic equipment, such as recording with phones. The consistency and clarity of these audible manifestations progressively increase as SCP-Y-056 advances through subsequent phases. Should the targeted individual attempt relocation or escape post-initiation of Phase 2, SCP-Y-056 immediately escalates to its lethal final phase. Targets experiencing this escalation vanish inexplicably from baseline reality when exposed to low-light environments or submerged in water, such as taking a bath or even so much as stepping into a moderately large puddle. Victims invariably reappear deceased within SCP-Y-015's aquatic containment chamber, transported through anomalous means not fully understood. Surveillance footage from SCP-Y-015's containment area consistently documents the spontaneous emergence of these victims, seemingly phasing out of SCP-Y-015's body and sinking to the bottom of its tank, their lifeless forms thoroughly entwined in SCP-Y-056's anomalous hair, exhibiting unmistakable signs of asphyxiation or drowning. Victims who resist fleeing advance into the deeply disturbing third phase, marked by overt and persistent appearances of SCP-Y-056 within clear view. Manifestations include the entity levitating ominously over sleeping victims, appearing abruptly behind them during wakeful hours, floating motionless in dark corners, and shadowing their movements relentlessly. While SCP-Y-056 refrains from direct physical contact during this phase, attempts by victims to physically confront or repel the entity instantly provoke its entry into Phase 4, leading inexorably to the victim's abduction and subsequent demise. Throughout Phase 3, SCP-Y-056 displays extreme animosity toward female individuals who engage in substantial interaction with the targeted male victim. Women involved socially with the target for extended periods of time become subject to immediate retaliation. Post-interaction with the entity's target, SCP-Y-056 abducts these females, later presenting their corpses grotesquely suspended from ceilings or affixed to walls, using tightly tangled hair manifestations. Autopsy examinations reveal extensive physiological trauma consistent with prolonged exposure to high-pressure aquatic environments, including water-saturated internal organs, significant hair accumulation internally, and widespread skeletal damage typical of bodies recovered from extreme ocean depths. Rarely, SCP-Y-056 abruptly ceases its interactions without further aggression or harm toward the target, though the criteria or triggers for such cessation remain enigmatic. Research speculates these occurrences may correlate with certain thresholds of induced psychological trauma, acceptance from the target, or social isolation achieved by SCP-Y-056's presence. However, in these fortunate but exceedingly rare cases, prolonged exposure typically results in profound psychological deterioration, chronic paranoia, and irreparable cognitive impairment among survivors, rarely able to meaningfully re-engage with society. Continued investigation strongly supports the hypothesis that SCP-Y-056 originates from the same extra-dimensional, aquatic dimension as SCP-Y-015. Cryptic references to SCP-Y-015's world discovered within communications from Ozilus of the Astral Right Concord suggest an intricate, intertwined mythos involving multiple potential worlds potentially being added to the dimension from this shared, flooded dimension. Ozilus appears to suggest that the, quote, endless serpent, previously documented within SCP-Y-015's incident reports, is capable of, quote, consuming flooded worlds. This significance and potential connection to SCP-Y-015 and its home dimension may increase in relevance over time. Foundation research efforts remain intensely focused on unraveling the complexities surrounding SCP-Y-056's origins, understanding its elaborate manifestation patterns, motivations, and ultimately formulating more effective containment and mitigation protocols to counteract its profoundly disturbing and lethal influence. Incident Report Y-56-3. Date: May 2000. Location: Apartment Complex, New York City. At approximately 02:45 hours, local law enforcement agencies received multiple distress calls reporting bizarre occurrences and the sudden disappearance of numerous residents within the apartment complex. Foundation monitoring systems promptly intercepted these communications and immediately dispatched Mobile Task Force Zeta-0 Squad 9, Hair Triggers, to secure the scene and initiate containment measures. Upon arrival, MTF personnel were confronted by an unprecedented obstacle. Dense, anomalous hair had thoroughly engulfed the entire complex, emerging excessively from every entrance, window, and ventilation shaft, creating an almost impenetrable barrier. Over a 24-hour period, Foundation operatives established a fortified perimeter equipped with advanced surveillance technologies, isolating the anomalous zone from civilian interference. Remote drones initially deployed for interior reconnaissance quickly became ensnared within the hair, their equipment malfunctioning from the extreme humidity levels and the anomalous, entangling nature of the manifestation. A specialized MTF exploration team, outfitted with cutting-edge thermal and mechanical shearing apparatuses, was subsequently tasked with manual penetration of the structure. Progress through the complex proved arduous and psychologically taxing, with operatives reporting auditory hallucinations, sensations of being watched, and movement within the oppressive masses of wet hair. Upon painstakingly reaching the intended target's apartment, remarkably clear of hair compared to the rest of the structure, the team discovered both the target, Carlisle, and SCP-Y-056 had inexplicably vanished without a trace. Forensics teams conducting follow-up analysis uncovered the horrifying fate of all 57 residents, each methodically abducted, their bodies gruesomely suspended and hidden within the extensive hair growth throughout the corridors, stairwells, and private quarters. Autopsy examinations universally revealed severe internal trauma consistent with prolonged exposure to extreme deep-sea pressures. Despite exhaustive investigative efforts, the primary target was neither located within SCP-Y-015's containment tank, nor anywhere else within observable baseline reality. This incident highlighted SCP-Y-056's potential for unprecedented escalation and deviation from previously documented behavior, significantly increasing Foundation awareness of its unpredictable and catastrophic capabilities. Incident Report Y-56-14. Date: May 2000. Location: Street, City. The Foundation identified subject Richard as the current focal point of SCP-Y-056's manifestations, following significant anomalous activity reported in his home. Seeking relief from persistent paranormal harassment, the subject solicited assistance from local clergy, specifically two exorcists, Father Estel and Father Christoph, who proceeded to perform standard religious rites of spiritual cleansing. Within minutes of beginning their ritual, Foundation surveillance systems recorded severe distortions in audio transmissions, capturing unsettling vocalizations indicative of profound terror and pain, likely caused by SCP-Y-056. Local residents simultaneously reported sudden humidity increases and visibly alarming manifestations of damp hair, extending outward from the subject's residence windows and doorways. Immediate Foundation response uncovered the remains of both priests, grotesquely suspended from the ceiling, exhibiting internal drownings, profound bloating, and hair-induced internal trauma, indicative of anomalous aquatic exposure. The subject, witnessing this catastrophic failure, fled into public spaces, inadvertently escalating SCP-Y-056's hostility. Multiple civilian and Foundation security cameras documented SCP-Y-056 manifesting fully, its elongated feminine form floating swiftly in pursuit, surrounded by dense, drifting hair. Eyewitness accounts described extreme psychological distress, immense atmospheric pressure as if underwater, and overwhelming atmospheric moisture in proximity to the entity. During this frantic chase, the subject inadvertently stumbled into a sizable puddle formed by recent heavy rainfall. Surveillance footage captured SCP-Y-056 overtaking and forcefully dragging the subject into the shallow water, anomalously vanishing entirely from baseline reality despite negligible water depth. Despite comprehensive perimeter searches and investigative sweeps, no further evidence or remains of the subject were ever recovered. This incident decisively demonstrates SCP-Y-056's lethal reaction to religious intervention, solidifying containment protocols expressly prohibiting such engagements. Researchers believe that the ritualistic activities of the priests had no advertent effect on SCP-Y-056, but appeared to offend the creature. Incident Report Y-56-31. Date: May 2000. Location: Suburban residence, Androscoggin County. Foundation monitoring detected anomalous hair growth reports within the home of Alan, a recently identified SCP-Y-056 target. Surveillance teams promptly secured the vicinity, rigorously enforcing non-intervention measures to prevent unnecessary escalation. 15 days into continuous observation, the subject exhibited pronounced paranoia, anxiety, and severe psychological deterioration due to SCP-Y-056's persistent presence, described vividly in logs as intense auditory hallucinations and frequent partial manifestations. Audio monitoring devices increasingly captured an eerie humming sound, intensifying concurrently with SCP-Y-056's visual and psychological manifestations with much greater frequency than the typical patterns. In a severe mental breakdown, the subject exhibited aggressive behavior toward Foundation personnel before attempting direct confrontation with SCP-Y-056. In retaliation, the entity instantaneously escalated its aggression, fully manifesting within the premises. Surveillance footage documented extensive and rapid hair growth enveloping the residence, forcibly abducting the subject and dragging them into the bathtub. Forensic recovery efforts later discovered the victim's remains within SCP-Y-015's containment tank, heavily inundated with water, displaying catastrophic internal injuries, consistent with drowning and severe hair infiltration trauma. This incident underscored SCP-Y-056's capacity for psychological manipulation, and the severe consequences resulting from aggressive target interactions, reinforcing strict adherence to passive observation, designed to minimize provocation and collateral damage. Conclusion: SCP-Y-056 represents an exponentially unpredictable and devastating anomaly capable of severe psychological manipulation, targeted abduction, and extreme environmental alteration. The documented incidents emphasize SCP-Y-056's highly volatile nature, aggressive reactivity to provocation, and lethal capabilities. Continued vigilance, adherence to passive containment measures, and further comprehensive research into SCP-Y-056's origins, behavioral patterns, and effective containment methods are imperative for mitigating this entity's significant threat. Ongoing interdisciplinary studies are strongly recommended to better understand and anticipate its anomalous behaviors and manifestations. This is Director Waller, signing off on another report at Site Y-1. I hope you'll consider subscribing to stay up to date with our latest findings. I eagerly look forward to having your audience in future reports.